Alright, so this is a continuation of my astrology video series of what happens when the sun is in different signs in your horoscope. Yesterday I ended with sun in the sign of Virgo, what those people are like. Today I'm going to be doing sun in the sign of Libra, which is directly opposite of the first video I made, which was sun in Aries. So if you remember in the sun in Aries video, Sun is exalted in Aries, and Sun is actually debilitated in Libra. Now, what does that mean? What that basically means is that these people tend to fall somewhat out of favor in their society, in their groups, um, and people view them as generally a little bit dimmer. Now, let me explain why this is. It's not because these people are stupid or anything like that. It's just because there's some Libra people who are incredibly intelligent, but the nature of the sign of Libra, it's the opposite of Aries. So if you remember, Aries is all about the self, and when you put the sun in Aries, a person becomes very selfish and they become about achieving their goals and sort of they're prepared to do basically whatever it takes to achieve their goals. When you put Sun in Libra, Libra is the opposite of Aries. If Aries is the self, Libra is other people. So this Sun sign becomes about relationships, specifically one-on-one relationships, and other people. They put other people first, and remember, as I said in almost all the videos so far, whatever's opposite the Sun gets debilitated. So if Aries represents yourself, and the Sun's in Libra, and Libra is opposite Aries, then these people's self esteem and their self respect and their ability to achieve their goals gets debilitated. And obviously, for the Sun, which is the planet that represents your ego, your core beliefs, your core desires, and your personal energy, and like how you express yourself, having your self debilitated, your physical body debilitated because you're focusing so hard on other people and so hard on negotiating with other people to get what you want that you suffer. So that is why the sun is debilitated in Libra, because it seems to put other people first constantly. So this being said, what are the ways that a sun in Libra person can act where they will sort of negate the negative effects of this position? Um, So, one thing about the Sun in Libra is that these people are typically quite intelligent, because if the Sun's in Libra, then Mercury can either be in Scorpio, Libra, or Virgo. And Mercury's exalted in Virgo, it's pretty good in Libra, and it is a very deep researcher in Scorpio. So, these are all good placements for Mercury. So, if somebody has Sun in Libra, they're almost always pretty smart, and they need that because they get their success through dealing with other people and negotiating with other people. um, Best case scenario for Sun in Libra, these people become like therapists, counselors, doctors, lawyers, any position where you're sitting across from another person. They can be salespeople too, even though they're typically not super extroverted. If they do have extroverted dispositions, if they have a lot of fire placements or something, they can be really, really good salespeople. Um, the best case scenario for these people is that they turn their ability to form relationships and negotiate into a personal vision of their own success. Worst case scenario for these people is that they become basically like a serial monogamist, like a serial relationship person, and they define themselves by their one-on-one interpersonal relationships. Um, a lot of people with Sun and Libra tend to define themselves by their relationships, and they tend to become kind of mooches and go into debt, because Libra also represents managing other people's resources. Um, and the final thing that Libra represents is going into debt. So if somebody, for instance, is a Libra Sun and they marry somebody super rich, they might think that's good because they got what they wanted without really doing any work. They didn't negotiate for that necessarily. basically prostituted themselves. And because of that, they might not even think they're taking on debt because the other person is just so happy to have them around because they're usually quite pretty, because this is a sign ruled by Venus, that this person is like giving them all types of stuff. But any gift, any transaction is still going to be a debt. Um, you're either going to repay that in this life or the next life. So what happens a lot with these people who become serial monogamists is that they marry people for their money, and then their life becomes extraordinarily self-destructive. And it's not they're necessarily doing anything, they're just incurring all this karma. They're receiving all this free stuff that they didn't earn, and that takes a weight on their soul, and their life becomes like they tend to get into drugs, they tend to get into self-destructive patterns and addiction patterns that aren't necessarily either drug related, like getting addicted to sex, getting addicted to porn, getting addicted to just lying around doing nothing. These people can become extraordinarily self-destructive if they do that. So again, best case scenario for this placement of Sun, a person with the Sun in Libra solves other people's problems, and they get compensated for that as a form of their personal success. Worst case scenario, they become a serial relationship person, and they harvest people's basically divorce settlements and financial, like child support and all this stuff for their money, and because of that they take a huge amount of debt onto themselves, and their life becomes very miserable. There are situations where that can work out favorably, but just a good rule of thumb is if you're giving, or if you're getting more than you give, you are typically incurring some sort of energetic debt. So that was my video on Sun in Libra. See you next time.